I had been thinking about it for a while, but once I decided, there was no looking back.
Naveed, thank you for joining me here on the Go at Manav. For those that do not know you, could you please tell them a bit more about yourself?
Hi, Manav. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Naveed Khawaja. I am ex-banker, now entrepreneur, trying my luck, with my own gig. I'm a father, two beautiful daughters, and I've been in Hong Kong now for about 16, 17 years. So, this is home for me.
Wonderful. Thank you, Naveed, for that introduction. Now, usually with my guests, I like to go back in time just to learn a bit more about who they were before they became the person that they are today. So, take you flashback. What was your first job after university?
I started with Citibank back in Pakistan. I was a credit analyst with their cards division, and I joined them basically like right out of university.
Nice. And what was that experience like as a fresh graduate?
It was intense. I think I was there for about a year, made some great friends, but very, very different, joining a company after, having gone to college. It was very, very different. A good taste of things to come.
And when did you end up moving from Pakistan to Hong Kong?
So after Citibank, I was there for about a year, and then I got accepted into the Standard Chartered Bank International Graduate Program. I was in Pakistan for about 3 years. The first 3 years of that program I spent in Pakistan, going through multiple rotations. And then in 2009, I got an opportunity to join the corporate bank with Standard Chartered Bank in Hong Kong.
When you got that offer, did you take it without a doubt, or was there some hesitation about you moving abroad?
It was pretty much without a doubt. To be very honest, I did not know much about Hong Kong at the time. But I had a classmate from college who was working here, and I called him up, and he was like, just go for it. Don't worry. It's fantastic. You will love it. And he was right. 16 years on, I'm still here.
Was the plan to work at Standard Chartered, was that plan to be for a few years, or did you not expect to end up working there longer than you anticipated?
At the time, there was no real plan. I do remember when I first joined Standard Chartered in Hong Kong, my manager told me that, the average shelf life of anyone in our business is about 2 years, and that about at the 2 year mark, people tend to move. Funnily enough, that's exactly what happened with me at almost precisely 2 years. I got an offer from Bank of America and I decided to take that. And, I spent the last 14 years of my career with Bank of America in Hong Kong.
So before we get to Bank of America, I'm curious to know, during your time at Standard Chartered, how did you progress during your roles?
The Snatcher was quite an interesting ride. I had three different roles in Pakistan. Then I moved to Hong Kong, where I was with the global corporates business for 2 years. As an international graduate, you do get quite a lot of opportunities. So I worked in various different areas of the business, and there was always something new to learn. And they did encourage you to constantly keep a lookout for your next move. Luckily for me, that happened quite frequently.
Awesome. And how did you get the opportunity then from Standard Chartered Bank? What was that, leaving that sort of environment and then going to Bank of America?
So I had wanted to sort of move into more of a product role. So most of my time at Standard Chartered was spent in sales. And I felt that, I really needed to get some depth of knowledge on the product side. And the role with Bank of America was halfway between product and sales. It was a very good fit for me at the time. And it allowed me to move into sort of a strategic sales role, but also at the same time build up my product knowledge. So yeah, it worked out quite well from that perspective.
When you moved to Bank of America, you're now in the senior position. Obviously, the level of expectations and pressures were probably a lot more apparent to you. What was it like then, going from, as a junior, you were able to, progress quite easily, and then all of a sudden you're in Bank of America. Do you remember what those first few years were like for you?
Yeah, so I think I was still relatively junior when I joined Bank of America. And I remember there were days and nights where, myself and the team were working till, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning just to meet deadlines. It was a very fun time as well. I worked with some great people, really enjoyed working with them, learning from them, etc. And then over time, got different opportunities and managed to progress into more and more senior roles. As you get a little bit more experienced in the organization, the expectations do change. So from associate to vice president, from vice president to director, it's a very, very different level of expectation and, output that is expected.
So, for people who are listening to this, how would you describe your role within banking? Because banking is very broad. So, for example, when you did progress over the years from junior to senior, or what was the last role you had before you ended up resigning?
The last role was in non-bank financial institution sales. I think over the past pretty much 15 years at Bank of America, everything revolved around payments. So I was in the payments business. I was, prior to this last role, I was managing the RFP and commercialization teams for Asia Pacific. I had always had liking for sales. I did want to go back to sales, and then about what was it, maybe 3 years ago, an opportunity opened up in the non-bank financial institutions segment for a sales role. So I put my hand up for that, and I got it. And the last 3 years I spent in that role, and it was quite interesting in terms of the client set was very, very different to what I had experienced before.
Would you say, do you have any regrets during your time within banking?
No, not really. I think it was a great journey. Met lots of interesting people, learned a lot from, a lot of great people. Think perhaps at the risk of sounding old, it's the friends that, move on and go into different banks and different lines of work that, you tend to miss most. Other than that, no regrets.
That's good. That's good to hear. So now, when it comes to taking risks, Naveed, you worked in banking for a lot of years, plenty of years. What is something you wish you learned when you were younger, when in the banking industry?
I think the one thing possibly I still sometimes might struggle with. And, even in my last role, fortunately or unfortunately, at certain level in the organization, the work starts to matter very little. And that's not something that, I ever got comfortable with or adept at. I think that's probably something that, would be if I was starting over, if I could give my younger self that advice, I would probably explain that to myself better.
Okay. No, fair enough. So then you've been working in Bank of America for how long? Was it like 14 years, 15 years?
14 years. Yeah.
14 years. Wow. When did you start realizing then that, you wanted to move on from this? Because you then decide, you wanted to go into entrepreneurship, but you're going into an entrepreneurship journey. Usually people say, oh, it's easier when you're younger to do it. Why did you decide to take the leap into entrepreneurship much later in your career when you probably had, a great job title, great salary? There's a lot that you had, but you felt like you still needed more.
I think it's more matter of trying or wanting to do something for myself more than anything else. I have always had a bit of an entrepreneurial streak, all the way back to school, college, etc. Always had a side gig or two going on. While I was working at Standard Chartered with my first job, I did have a business on the side that I exited after about 18 months. So it's something that, I've always wanted to do. I think with where I was in my career and what I was looking forward to in the next 5, I thought it would be a good time to try it because I didn't want to wait too long.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you sometimes wish that you started your business earlier? And for people listening, could you please tell us a bit more about the business that you ended up starting?
I now manage or run the largest pickleball center in Hong Kong called 212. We opened up in mid July last year. And since then, we've been building and getting better and better slowly. I think it was early last year when I first played pickleball, and I've played sports all my life. The second time I played the sport, I knew that, I was going to be obsessed with it. At the time, I didn't realize that, it would be or it would become my income as well. I think when I started playing it, I really fell in love and seeing how it brought different people together and the fact that it was so appealing or enjoyable to athletes, but at the same time, someone who's just playing it for fun and probably has no idea what they're doing. Both those sets of people and everyone in between, they just have a really, really good time playing, pickleball. Over the course of a few months, I decided, or it became apparent to me that this is something that I wanted to do. And yeah, then, I took the leap of faith and went ahead.
Do you remember your last day in your job within Bank of America and your first day when you stopped working as a full-time employee? Do you remember realizing, what did I just do? Is this the right decision?
That's a difficult one. I think I had been thinking about it for a while, but once I decided, there was no looking back. I did a lot of work personally to make sure that I was ready to take this step. Once I had decided to do it, then, there was no going back. There was no plan B or, any sort of looking back and wondering, oh, what if, or, anything like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And how has the feedback been from people when it comes to using 212 Hong Kong? Like, what has that been like?
So we've been very lucky and, we've been humbled by the feedback we've received so far. And it feels great to, have people appreciate, all the hard work and effort that we've put in to create, hopefully, a very, very good experience for them. We joke in the office that, we can't have a phone call in the office because it's usually so loud and, there's always people screaming and laughing. And, one of my teammates always says that sound of people laughing and screaming is evidence that we are in the right business and that we're doing something right.
That's a great way to say it. I mean, I wouldn't have thought of that. So that's actually quite a nice way to say that you are doing something meaningful and impactful, which is great. Do you wish that you started your business earlier, or do you feel like it came to you in the right place and the right time? And especially with pickleball, there's paddle right now that's going on. Do you feel like, oh, I wish I did this earlier? I'm enjoying this now.
I think for me, it came at the perfect timing. I don't know if I was ready or if I would have been able to do, what I've done over the past year, even 2 years ago. I do honestly believe that everything that happened over the past, 20, 30, 35 years led me to this point in time and contributes to, where I am in my life and whether I'm ready for this opportunity or not. I'll mention the fact that I did look into pickleball 2 years ago. And at the time, I was thinking about doing something in Dubai, for example, because, I had read about this new sport that was taking the US by storm. And I thought, oh, Dubai would be a perfect way or place to, try it out. And I did think that it would have great potential, but, working a full time job, after doing quite a bit of research, work started picking up, late nights there, etc., etc. And then, this just got pushed to the side. And then, like I said, a year ago, one of my friends was like, "Oh, let's go play pickleball." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Why not? I've read so much about it. I've seen it on YouTube. I would love to try it." Like I said, the first time or second time I played it, I knew that this would be my new sport.
When you told your friend that you were going to do this business in pickleball, did they believe you or did they think, what does this mean with your full time job?
I think with my full time job, it just wasn't possible.
Yeah.
It's very hard, right? When I left Bank of America, it was almost 6 7 months of like day and night, 16, 18, 20 hour days, constant hard work to get everything ready. You just cannot do it. If I was doing this, as a side gig with a full-time job, what we managed in 6 months would probably have taken 18 months or more.
Wow. So what made you take that leap? Because you could have obviously, for example, had the thought of the failure and the fact that, oh, your business didn't work out. What do I do next? Were you very certain that this was going to succeed?
I'm sure you know the stats, right? Only
Yeah.
1 out of 10 small businesses make it past year one, and probably even fewer make it past 3 years. So I went into this with eyes wide open. I know the stats, I know, the chances of success are, you know, relatively low. At the same time, I tried to make sure that, I was giving myself the best chance of success. I'm inspired by Alex Hormozy, who said, do so much work that it is unreasonable for you to not succeed. That's how I thought about it. If we if we do the right things for long enough, we should be able to succeed. And even if we don't, hopefully the lessons we learn will make, my next business or the business after that better place to succeed.
So it seems like you're already thinking ahead, which is great. One question is, why did you decide to do pickleball and not paddle? Because paddle is trending right now. There's so many people who want to play paddle. You could have done paddle, but you decided, no, I'm going to go with pickleball. What made you decide to do that?
So I did look into paddle as well. I know it's a very, very popular sport. It's a little bit more high octane than pickleball. However, given Hong Kong's unique real estate situation, there is just not enough options for indoor paddle courts. Given Hong Kong's weather, outdoor paddle courts are probably going to lose about 30 to 40% days in a year due to rain or extreme heat or sometimes cold weather, etc.
Yeah.
If you can't have paddle indoors, then I just don't see that it makes much sense as a viable, profitable business.
It's interesting that you kind of point out the reasons for one destination only. But if you were in Dubai, you were in London, London, for
Yeah,
example, there's plenty of paddle courts as opposed to maybe just three in Hong Kong as an example. So it's very different in that case. We just have a
yeah.
few more questions left, Naveed. So one of my last few questions is, what are you up to nowadays? Because I can imagine you're very busy with the growing demand of pickleball. So what keeps you busy now?
I think now we are just progressing out of the build phase. All of our infrastructure is set up, our team is in place, our processes and systems are in place. Now it's just about bedding down our processes and making sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability. And then for me personally, and some of my team, is just making sure that the business is set up properly. So, whether it's making sure that we have a tight control on expenses, making sure we're building this business so that it can scale beyond what would be possible for just a collection of individuals. So, making this greater than the sum of its parts business.
Understood. And if you had to give a piece of advice to aspiring entrepreneurs or an advice to yourself you wish you knew when you were younger before you became an entrepreneur, what would that be?
Before someone starts on their entrepreneurial journey, they need to probably think long and hard about whether this is what they want. Everyone says, "Oh, I would like to manage my own hours, this, that, etc." I used to work maybe 10% of what I do now. Right. When I was working a 9 to 5 at a bank, it was nowhere near comparable to what I'm doing right now. I start early in the morning, I finish around 3, 4, 5 in the morning. It's just constant 16, 18, 20-hour days, and everything is your problem. Right. So you need to be prepared for that. Again, I forget who said it, but it's entrepreneurship for the majority of the time is like eating glass, right? So it's uh it's very tough. It's very stressful. I'm almost every other day thinking about, how I'm going to make payroll, how I'm going to make my payments, if, things are done right, is there, anything else that we can do for our clients, et cetera, et cetera. So um, you're it. There's no IT support, there's no marketing team, there's no, content writers or anything like that. You're it, basically. So it's not easy. At least at this stage in my journey, I can say that I wouldn't trade it for anything else. It has been extremely challenging, but also at the same time very rewarding.
No wonder you're recording this with me at 3 a.m. in Hong Kong. Yeah. I mean, I truly appreciate your honesty in that answer. I mean, I think saying the truth and being open about the challenges is one thing, but being able to really say, I've never heard anyone say the phrase, it's like eating glass. I mean, I can feel it without even being in that position. But it allows me to really put myself in your position and entrepreneurs like their position to really understand what goes behind closed doors. I've interviewed many entrepreneurs on my podcast, but the way how you described it is very genuine to me that it's just endless cycles of stress.
One thing I will say is, even before when I was in a corporate job, I had a lot of respect for entrepreneurs, but now being on this side of the fence, that respect, especially for successful entrepreneurs, I mean, hats off. To be able to beat the statistics, an insane achievement, right?
Yeah.
And it's not luck, right? Of course, luck is a contributing factor to, any success, but just that just that grit and that perseverance that is required to, keep moving forward after you know you get punched in the face pretty much every day, right? And to do
Wow.
that over a period of time, I have the greatest respect for anyone who takes this journey on and actually manages to be successful. Mad respect.
I appreciate you saying that and the fact that you were able to also put yourself now you know what it's like to be an entrepreneur. Saying, "Oh, I wonder what it's like to be an entrepreneur" is one thing when you're not, but then now actually being an entrepreneur, you really do understand the feelings, the struggles, what it means to just be one and just have the lived experience to be an entrepreneur. So now, Navi, we're coming to our last question, and that is, do you have anything else for listeners? And that could be anything to do with your career journey. Do you have any regrets? Is there something you wish you learned earlier? We covered a bunch of that earlier, but it's just good to know. Is there anything you would change?
Probably not. As a person, I just normally don't do regret. So
Yeah,
I
same.
do honestly feel that, whatever's happened in the past, it was a key reason for me being who I am today. Right? Whether, that's good, bad, ugly, whatever, all of that contributes to where I am today. And, the lessons I've learned, I'm hopefully putting to some good use now. Yeah, I think um, there's this saying that really helps me, and I shared this with my daughters a lot. And I think I know Tom Hanks quoted it in one of the podcasts that he did, and it's just, this too shall pass. Whether you're on top of the world, this too shall pass. Or, you think like you've lost everything and, there's no hope, this too shall pass. If you can step back and take a look at the bigger picture, I think, one bad day, one bad week, one bad month, even one bad year over the course of your life means nothing.
Wise words, Naveed. I'll definitely be taking a lot from this discussion going forward because it allows me to review things a bit differently. Thank you, Naveed, for joining me on my podcast. For people who like to get in touch just to learn more about you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
I think perhaps my LinkedIn, they can drop me a line there. More than happy to connect. Or anyone is in Hong Kong, drop by at 212. You will see me there.
Thanks so much, Naveed. That's great. And for people who are watching, make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. A new guest will be on soon. Thanks, Naveed, for joining me here today.
Thanks for having me, Manav.